Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm going to do this video on slowest thesis writing. It's a very interesting topic, and the reason why I call it slowest thesis writing is what I'm going to cover in today's session. From this video, this is a video that I have developed based upon a question that I answered on Quora. So if you want to check that out, do check it out later. But in this video, I will not have my camera on. It will just be me talking about the question that people have asked on Quora and the responses that I'm giving them. So let's start with this topic today, slowest thesis writing. So why should you write your thesis very, very slowly? Typically, I always talk about getting your PhD or your research done very fast. But why is it that I'm talking about this very different thing today? Why should you write your thesis very, very slowly? Let's look into this. See, I have supervised over 25 PhD students in Australia so far. And in my opinion, PhD thesis should be a continuous process. So it is not that you finish your research and then you start writing. So the writing of your PhD thesis should be a continuous process. What I mean by that is you should continuously write something for your thesis. It has to be an ongoing process. You do not or you should not leave writing as an independent activity towards the end of your research, because this puts unnecessary stress. What you should ideally do is while you are doing your research, you should start writing as well. And this is what I'm going to cover in today's session, and I will show you how you can incrementally write your thesis year by year, which is why I call it a slowly writing thesis. Yeah. So you don't write all the thesis and in the last year of your PhD, but you progressively write your thesis from year one. So let's see what all you can write and when can you write it. There are many sections or chapters of your thesis that can be written in this form over a period of 2 to 3 years. For example, introduction chapter can be written after you have presented your PhD proposal to your doctoral committee or the doctoral panel. Typically, the proposal has substantial content which can go into the chapter 1 or the introduction chapter. Of course, there will be some changes as your research progresses, but in my experience, the majority of the content from your research proposal will and should remain the same. Similarly, when you're doing your literature review, you can do two things. Firstly, I strongly recommend you publish a systematic literature review based upon your thesis, based upon your research. Secondly, I would suggest after publishing your systematic literature review, you can convert that into chapter 2, which is on literature review. By doing this, in the first year itself, you have more or less completed 2 chapters of your thesis, which is a great achievement. What you can also work on is your methodology chapter, which is typically the chapter 3. In this chapter, you are going to explain what methods you are going to use in your research. This method selection should have been finalized in consultation with your advisor. And this is usually known well before you present your PhD proposal, because you include this information in your PhD proposal. Once this is finalized, you can easily complete this chapter. So ideally, in the first year, you should have or you should aim to have 3 chapters ready and 1 systematic literature review paper. After this, you can focus on your data collection or algorithm development or whichever research approach you are following. You can complete your data analysis, and after this is done, you should be in a stage where you should aim to publish your second research paper, which will report your findings, and immediately after you have done that, you should write the findings chapter. Sometimes it is also a good idea that when you get feedback on your journal article, you incorporate that feedback and include that in your chapter as well. If your research has multiple studies, then you should follow one after the other. After each study is complete, you have analyzed the data, write a journal paper, and convert that into a chapter immediately after that. So if you have multiple studies that you are doing, for example, you have done a qualitative study, then you have done a quantitative study, and then maybe you have done some content analysis, or anything like that, you can make each of those as a separate chapter and a journal paper. So you can see how we are progressively writing up your thesis rather than leaving it all at the end of your journey. This can happen in the second year of your PhD. So in the second year, you should aim to have at least 2 chapters if you have 2 separate studies that are happening in your PhD and 2 journals. As you can see, you are continuously writing and publishing your work. There are multiple benefits of doing this. Firstly, you are validating your research in your research community. This is a defense against your work. So when your thesis goes for examination and the examiner notices that you have multiple peer-reviewed publications, they cannot fail you in your thesis or cannot give you any random comments on your research work, because your work has already been peer-reviewed, and especially if this is published in top journals, then you are in a very strong position. So publishing your work continuously works in your favor. I have had students who had published anywhere between 6 to 7 papers or up to 20 papers in journals and conferences during their PhD program. This is possible in some disciplines like software engineering or computer science or engineering in general. But for other disciplines, there may be different publication expectations. So do check that out if you are in a different discipline. Now, the only thing that remains after this is the discussion chapter, which includes the limitations of the study, your future research direction, and conclusion. This can be completed in the third year of your PhD. So if you follow this strategy, writing thesis will be much easier and will not be so stressful, because it is pretty straightforward and you are writing as you are progressing with your research. And this also has a benefit because you don't kind of think, oh, what was it that I was thinking or did when I was doing my data analysis. You don't forget things. So it is a very good strategy to follow this. Another benefit of this approach is in some universities, there is the option to submit your PhD via publications, where you will need at least 2 or 3 good quality journal articles, which will become your thesis. So in that situation, which is called as thesis by publication, you would need to write an introduction and a conclusion chapter, and then the publications that you have will go in between. So that is another way of writing a thesis, and also saves you a lot of time. I have got a few videos on this topic, so if you do check out them on my YouTube channel, and do follow them, because that will help you to finish your thesis confidently and you will enjoy your research while you're doing it. Thank you very much and for listening to me, and kindly share these videos to help increase the reach of my videos. All right, thank you very much, and I'll come back to you again with another interesting discussion. Thanks a lot and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.